Hello, how the hell are you doing? Are you ready for a long video? Because this is going to be a long one. This is going to be a DIY project. This is going to be, well, refinishing the Halloween kills. Now the last video I did was the unboxing, and I mentioned it somewhat towards the end there that I was going to possibly just maybe weather this down and then leave it at that. I'm just going to go ahead and go with a general rehaul, overdue, whatever, refinishing instead of just washing it down. Now what I mean by a general one is I'm not going to remove all the hair, just the front line. I'm going to go ahead and open up these eyes a little bit more. In other words, make them a little bit larger with these little tiny scissors. I could use like my Dremel, but this pole is so thin, I don't want to take any chances, and I would just rather take my time and make very small cuts along around the eyes. Oh, and another thing I'm going to do, this is a personal preference, I'm definitely going to go ahead and make a slit here in the mouth. I want it to open. I'm not a fan of them being closed. Granted, I don't go around wearing these masks, but if I choose to do so, I think that with the open slit, which is, you know, generally what it's supposed to be anyways, because let's face it, the original, and that's what they did for Nick or Tommy when he was making them. I'm not going to get into all the history, but it was an open mouth. It's easier to breathe that way. So let's get into it. Like I said, this is going to be a long video. Don't worry, I'm going to make some cuts. Believe me, I'm not going to sit through the whole entire thing, because there is going to be one process where I'm going to let this mask sit for at least 2 days before I touch it again. And believe me, you'll know it when I talk about it. Oh yeah, let's cut this guy off, because this thing drives me nuts. Alright, got that off, but I do like to hold on to it and try to display it next to the mask. It's kind of cool that way, right? Right? Let me go ahead and go with the mouth real quick. Let me get a razor for that. A razor, Latin for the cutting device. Now one good thing about this mask, I've noticed with the mouthpiece, it's indented even more. In other words, it just goes a little bit further back. Now I'm taking my time with all this. I don't know if I'm actually fast forwarding at this point on the video, which I probably should, because this is really boring. Oh, by the way, if you have a cat post but not a cat around, these things are great to use for masks to work on. But what I do with the razor, by the way, in this case with the mouth, this is the main reason why you want to take your time is, in this case, the way my finger is on the other side, I don't want to stab myself. But if you just take your time as if you're rubbing it.
That's what she said. Michael.
Now if you're doing the exact same thing and you're like, okay, why isn't mine going as easily? Well, maybe your razor's dull. There could be that. Or you forgot to open it up. True story. I've done that before. Alright, I'm going to stop, take a good look at it. I don't want to go too much further. Nope, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe a little bit more over here. Yeah, you don't want to go all the way to the corners of the mouth, because then it just doesn't look right. You just kind of want it somewhat centered. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and open up these eye holes a little bit more. Now, yeah, I know they're already open. In other words, I want to make them a little bit larger. That's what she said. Now, I'm a lefty, so that's the one pain in the ass thing about these scissors, or any scissors for that matter. So I guess in one hand it's a good problem because I take my time even more so, but on the other hand I'm always, I don't know, for some reason I'm just finding it more complicated to find the right spot. So I naturally go over to my right hand where I'm not as coordinated, so that's why I probably go a little bit slower. So I'm going to start trimming off. I mean, we're talking a thin piece. And I'm not even going to be able to pick that up on the lens. Let me try to focus in on it. I mean, right now you're probably thinking that looks like a booger, and it's tiny. That's what she said. Hey, shut up! I'm just going to continue going along the shape of the eye. And the funny thing of it is, sometimes after even doing this, it seems like, well, I didn't do a damn thing. Well, that's probably a good thing, because that means I didn't go beyond the shape of the eye. And you know the best way to determine if the eye hole is big enough? put the mask on. In other words, go in the bathroom where you have a mirror and a light, usually above the mirror. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's the best place to really see for yourself. The phones are great, but the bathroom mirror is the best place to test these out to see how it really looks. Alrighty, I am done with the eye cutouts. I'm happy with it. I like these little imperfections because it adds character to it, if you know what I mean. Like, why am I explaining this to you? You know this. Alrighty, now let's get to, I'm gonna get these sharp objects out of the way. Accident a long time ago in shop class. Alright, let's get into this. Okay, so I'm gonna take my time. It's coming off pretty easily. Oh, it's coming off real easy. And I can't guarantee that every one of these are going to be like that. I'm just, as you can see, I'm imagining. Can you see? This is just super easy. I'm not going to try to pull any further from there right now. I'm just going to keep on going with the front. Now this might inspire you to, let's face it, this glue line for a mask that's been through hell and back is way too clean anyways. So you may want to try to do this if you just want to fix the hairline by removing it like I'm doing right now, and I'll explain more here in a moment. Alright, I think what I'm going to do now, I'm just taking my time with this. I'm not trying to force it. Okay, I'm going to go on this side now and start pulling. Wow, now that is one piece, and I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that. Alright, now I have a feeling I could probably remove the rest of this hair with ease, but not every one of them is going to be that way. I could promise you that. If so, then it'll be the first. Now I'm going to take this hair that I just removed and I'm going to save it. Let me see if I can try to figure out. I think what they did was they just painted this. You know what I mean? They just painted it. Or they added glue to the top of it and then painted the glue. That could be exact. I don't know. It's hard to say. But if you have done this for many, many, many years, you probably figured it out already. Nick Malpagano has done, I think, a 2018 video where he rehauled one, and he basically gave the same advice as well, is to hold on to the hair. That way you don't have to rehair the whole thing. And I'm just going to roll up like that, and I'm definitely, I don't want to like put this to a side because even though I use these to stuff the mask, a lot of times I put this in my recycling bin and throw them away later. I don't want to do that right now. Alright, now that I've gotten that out of the way, got all this kind of flapped down, the next thing I want to do is actually take the hair from the back side on the unburnt side and kind of remove it from the, because they like to glue the damn hair on the back side of the mask. Alright, power tool time. I'm going to go ahead and use my lacquer thinner since I've already got it there. If you got tons and tons of Roxy glasses around, I highly recommend these. Why? Because you could, well, whew, that's strong. Now, one thing that I got in the past, and hopefully I still have some more right now, I got these shower caps at the Dollar Tree. 8 of them in here for, what, $1. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to get ready to paint this bad boy outside. This is one of the main reasons why I recommend wearing your old grungy t-shirts or grungy clothes. Why? Because it could be windy out there. You just never know. Do you want to... Okay, I'm going to airbrush it. If you decide to airbrush this, which is something I recommend, you just don't want to take any chances. Make sense? Okay. Now, instead of actually showing you how I'm going to add the paint, in other words, the recipe here, I'll just go over it. Now we're going to be mixing 3 important ingredients. Liquid latex, otherwise RD407 from Monsters Makers, I highly recommend. The acrylic paint, obviously whatever tone of color. With Michael Myers, we need white and distilled water. 3 equal parts, mixed thoroughly, as thin as pancake batter with no lumps. Very important that all 3 of these ingredients are equal and mixed thoroughly. You know, I probably should go over this just a little bit more. I know it's boring, but it is crucial. Now, if you have a container like this that you're using to recycle, let's say you're mixing paint in it again, and if it's been sitting for a while and it's been sealed up so good, well, then just run some warm water over it. It's going to open it up in no time. Because I thought about that a moment ago. Because I know there's a lot of people that's never done anything like this before, and you know, think of those old stubborn ketchup bottles or whatever, a can of whatever, a jar of something, a jar of edibles. Just run some warm water over it. Or if you got an old liquor bottle where the bottle cap doesn't want to come off, you know, as easily. Warm water. See, maybe you learned something today from this old fart. Oh, and another thing too. The airbrush kit that I use for something like this is very affordable. Granted, the compressor could be somewhat expensive, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. Hell, you can go over to Amazon or eBay and see tons of those kits, or you can go to Harbor Freight if you've got one nearby. Harbor Freight has amazing prices on a lot of tools, even little air compressor kits. And you could start off with something like this. These guys right here are perfect to do a base coat of paint on your masks. And what I love about this, you're not going to get any of your paints clogged up in the needle of an expensive airbrush gun. Now granted, I highly recommend you get yourself a decent airbrush and know how to use it properly if you want to start fine-tuning some of the details on any of your artwork. But if you're going to do something with just base coat airbrush, this is the way to go, because let's face it, you can rinse these out. I've had these for about 2 years now, and it comes with, as it says, 7 pieces, right? I've used it time and time and time again, and they're very simple to clean out with just water. Oh, and you know those little bread ties that we get, you know, when you go buy your bread, if you still buy bread? Okay, I've got this little, they look like little bottle cleaners, okay? This little end of a bread tie, that little tiny metal piece. When you get to the point where you want to clean these bad boys, because obviously the paint's going to come up through and you'll see it outside. We'll pretend this thing's full of paint right now. Now when it comes time to when you want to clean it, obviously you just use warm water. You don't have to use anything else. You could take this little, what was your tie for a bread, take some of that wrapping off and just start puncturing where the paint comes out to clean it out that way. And if you want to make sure it's clean, well, if you see a little tiny clear like you're looking through a little keyhole, then you know you're good to go. Because latex is going to clog these things up. So that's why I recommend, if you're just doing base coats with it, this right here is the way to go. And if I remember correctly, I said it's been over a year. You can look these up online and they are extremely affordable. I don't want to say it was $10, but if I remember, it's somewhere between $10 to $15. You'll see it out there in a moment, trust me. Okay, now we're outside. Yay. Yeah, focus on the mask. Alright, I'm going to wipe this down again one more time. 9 times out of 10, even though you wiped it down earlier, there's going to be something that's, like when you're loosening up that hair, it all gets in the... Let me get a little bit closer at this point. Because when I'm going to start airbrushing this thing, I don't know if I'm going to have it as close to the lens. I think you can understand why. I don't have a budget to put this camera in a clear box. Maybe if you become a brilliant artist, Scott, you will be able to afford one. I doubt it. I ain't that good at it. In fact, I see kids that are just getting started at this, and they're like ahead of their time, if you know what I mean. Oh my God, seeing this under natural light, wow. I'm just now looking into the monitor on the camera. Wow. Now granted, I have this camera set up on automatic. I'm not going to worry about fine-tuning the colors on this, by the way. So if I do, it just takes me longer, and I'm not to hell with that. I'm not going to do what I normally do when it comes to... Oh, another thing, another reason why I like to do this, besides trying to clean any hairs or what may fly onto this guy, it definitely, with the lacquer thinner, once I spray this paint on there, it tends to stick to it even more so. And now I'm starting to notice some of these little hairs pop up more so on the mask itself. Alright. It's not really windy out here, so that's a good thing. Yep, there we go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start the first coat. Now, make sure that you stop at one point. Don't overspray it. Like I said, thin coats. Because if you do, it'll start running. Then you're going to deal with another headache, and you don't want to deal with that. Now, one thing I like to do, even though it's hot outside, come on, extension cord. Get your hair dryer out and start drying what you just sprayed. Oh, for the first timers, you know, for you beginners, start on the back first, by the way. Which is what I should have done in the first place. But I recommend starting in the back, or if you're going to try to rehair it for the first time, start on the top of the head, you know, up here. Yep, I need to add more paint. Not surprised. Just kind of hoping to get 2 on this one. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera so I can fill this up again. Okay, got some fresh paint. Now the reason why it's kind of angled is because I've got my camera sitting on my picnic table, and that's why. And I'm not moving my big picnic table for this. Alrighty. Another thing too I recommend, this is from Trial and Error. In between each time I have to add new paint, I rinse it out completely. Clean all the parts. Just water, warm water. As if I was adding a new batch to it. And that's something you should be doing with an airbrush period anyways. Even though this is a little different than a typical airbrush gun. But the container, yes. Between each coat of paint, I clean it out before I add new. And then naturally I shake that mixed, you know, liquid latex, acrylic, and water for about a good minute before I add it in here. And I go ahead and tighten this up all the way. Alright, let me just take this back a little bit further. Start in the back. That way, if there are already loose pieces that are going to blow off, at least it'll be in the back. Alright. Keep your distance and always keep your brush moving. Your gun, your air gun moving. Don't sit still while you're painting. Especially with the cheaper ones. Now if you get into more high advanced, more expensive airbrushes, that's a little bit different. But then again, I'm not going to sit here and do a tutorial on airbrushing, where I'm not a master at it. Always keep your hand moving, or do what I'm doing. Pick up your mask if you're using a tripod like I am, and move it as well. Get underneath, don't forget that. Keep a little bit of a distance, like 6 to 8 inches away from the brush to the mask. Don't get it too close. Remember, you're doing light coats. Right now my gut's telling me to stop, get that hair dryer out, and try to dry it up somewhat. We'll look at this carefully real quick before I start putting another coat on. I really wanted to initially go with 3, but I'd like to get this darker side a little bit brighter though. At the same time, I don't want to lose much attention to detail. So this is why I want to take a good, good careful look at this. Because there is some very fine lines right on the forehead that I don't want to lose. I'm afraid I might though. That's the one thing I'm not crazy about this particular mask because, like I said, well, it seemed to have lost a lot of attention to detail on this pole compared to the 2018. Maybe that's the best way I can describe it. You know what? Let me put this third one on there and see what happens. Now, I'm noticing like around in the ear where it's been seriously burnt. See folks, this is one of the reasons why you pay those guys a lot of money, because there's a lot of sweat and tears that comes in with each mask. And the time you put into them. Especially when it does this crap. Not to mention the cost of the materials. There we go. I'd rather get stuck here than get spit on the mask. It'll fly. I got it. Alright, what I was trying to say, trying to get that little yellow like around the neck, but I don't want to spray it too much where it starts dripping. So right now I'm trying to concentrate more on this side where it's black. You can get that blood. Alright, I'm going to dry this real quick. Hot. It's supposed to be in the 90s this weekend. Yeah, and I've got to coach this, yeah. I'm my son's head coach on his soccer team, so yeah, it's supposed to be the 90s this Sunday while I'm out there. 15, 16 years of this, which I love it. I really do. Let's go inside. It's much cooler in there. Okay, well that's going to do it for this part of the video. Trust me, I've still got a lot to do, and I don't think you want to sit down forever. How long it would actually take me to edit. Because like I said, I still got a lot to do yet. Let's just put it this way. I'm going to let this thing sit for like 2 more days. I want it to completely dry inside this environment. Now sure, I could touch it even after taking the blow dryer, which you had witnessed in the video. But I want the paint to absorb with inside the mask over the existing paint, which yes, I could have. But I'm definitely not going to remove that original paint because it is a pain in the ass. And not to mention this pole is really thin, and I know me, if I start pulling some of that old paint off, I'd probably rip a hole in it, and it's just not worth it. Trust me, I've done plenty of these, well, the 2018s that I didn't remove the paint, and it's turned out just fine. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a couple more days before I start working on this again, and then we'll pick up from there, and hopefully, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that this guy will end up looking much better than what it did. I like the sculpt, I appreciate the hell out of the sculpt, but the paint, well, there's a reason why I'm doing this, right? Okay, well, I better take a shower and go get my kid, and I will see you soon with part 2 on the Halloween Kills 2021, The Bar Downstairs Rehaul.